Okay, so I think now we are live.
Look at that, just like that, Maria, on the
Like,
other side of the globe.
yeah, exactly. Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you can see us and hear us well. If there are problems, just let us know in the comments below. I am Maria. I'm part of the marketing team at Socialinsider, and joining me today is Nicole Hatherly. Thank you so much, Nicole, for joining me today.
Oh, Maria, we had such a good conversation last time. And through all of our conversations, you're now, I'm sure, an expert brand strategist.
Yeah, thanks to you. I learned a lot of things actually on the podcast episodes we did together.
Fantastic.
That's why I've decided to invite you live for a live session.
I love a live session. We got to see each other when we were recording the podcast. And a
Yeah,
couple of times we said, it'd be really good for everyone to see us. So this is perfect.
yeah, exactly. So, for those who don't know you, Nicole is a leading global brand profile strategist, profile specialist, content and network expert. She's also an international keynote speaker. She has over 26 years of experience delivering award-winning brand marketing and content strategies for iconic and international brands. And I'm super happy that she's here with me today. Okay, so if anyone has questions, just let us know in the comments below and we will respond them. But first, let's start with the definition. For those who don't know, what is a brand strategy? Nicole, please tell us in a few words.
It's such a great question. I think brand and brand strategy means so many different things to so many different people. It depends what business you're in, what area you're in, but sometimes it sounds really scary. Business strategy isn't scary, and it can be a lot of fun, but it's where business strategy comes that's the most important. So we spoke on the podcast about brand strategy not being about our branding. So brand strategy comes first, and it's the way that people will feel about our brand. So actually brand and the strategy around brand is working out our plan for how we want people to feel, what we want them to think, then what we want them to say, and finally what we want them to do. And a lot of organizations jump into the what do we want them to do? We want them to buy our products and services. We want them to identify our brand. But really, we get to dream and think and create first. And that's basically what brand strategy is. So brand strategy is three really fundamental things. The first is really critical. And there's so many times that I get to work with businesses and thought leaders and organizations that cannot answer. It's a very, very easy question to ask, a hard one to respond to is, what are we doing here? What is our why? So what are we actually doing here in this organization? What do we want to do? What are we doing? Why are we here? That question. And it's the fundamental question that not only the person running the business or the leadership team, but everyone in the business needs to know why we're here. So that's a fundamental question. And then the second question is, what problem are we solving by being here? So what's the problem we solve? And the third one is, who do we solve this problem for? Who are we here for? Who is our who? And once we've got those three very key pillars of a brand strategy, we're most of the way there. So the brand strategy is really the strategic plan behind how we make people fall in love with us and want to stay with us for life.
Yeah, I remember that you said something really interesting in the podcast episode. You said, think the brand strategy as what would you like people to say about your brand? What's the story behind? And I found it very interesting because every brand should have a story. And how do you tell that story?
Yeah, every brand has a story. And if we don't tell that story before we sell a product, We're just in a tangible relationship. But every brand has the opportunity to be in a real relationship, to be thought of and to be held in the hearts and minds of the people we want to serve. And so with brand strategy, it's basically how are we going to change people's hearts and minds? What do we want them to think and feel as well?
Great. So, do we need a big budget? Because I'm sure that there are a lot of people saying, "Okay, but I don't have budget. I don't. I have to pay a designer, or I have to pay a marketing team, or can we develop a brand strategy without a big budget?"
Do you want the good news or the bad news?
Both.
The good news, both. The good news is that you can do it with very little budget. So that's the good news. You don't need a big budget to create a brand strategy. What we need is to actually launch that brand strategy, the plan, into the universe there, into the visual area of our customers. So when we're doing a brand strategy, we don't need too much money at all. It needs to almost always come from the people who've got the brand in their hands. So the people who are creating the brands or recreating the brands. We can get a brand strategist to help us through there. But as long as we know why we exist and what problem we solve, who we solve it for, and how we want to convey, what emotion do we want people to feel when they hear our brand? If we've got those things, that creates our brand vision. Now, the brand vision is just a one-pager sometimes that we then give to people to bring the brand to life. So do we need a budget to bring the brand to life? Yeah. We're best off to have a budget for people to see our vision and then to be creative with that. But coming back, before we actually create it, we have to have the vision. And so the budget for creating a brand vision or having exactly what we want is almost like that piece of string. It depends on how much we know about our brand or how much we need someone's help to bring that vision out, if that makes sense. So I work with thought leaders and I also work with very large global brands. And I use the same strategy on both of them and everyone in between, entrepreneurs and small businesses. And it's exactly the same steps to articulate the value of the brand and to really get into the heart of why we're here, beyond making some money and making people happy. So yeah, it's an interesting question. Do we need a big budget? We can always do more when we've got a big budget. We've got more of an impact and amplification. But you don't need a big budget to actually put together what's in your heart and mind to share that in other people's. It's all about articulating our value. And we do that in a vision before we actually create all the gorgeous things around brands. We have to be able to articulate the value of the brand.
Great. So now tell me some fundamental components for any brand to be successful. What are the main things a brand should consider?
That's a really good question. The fundamentals, and these are the non-negotiables for any brand, large or small. Exactly. So we have to have our brand vision, and we have to keep on that brand vision. So we have to be consistent. Mm-hmm. And so that's why if we've got really good foundations of a brand, that's really consistent. And so consistency is the first key. The second key is that we have to be able to own the narrative, so the brand story. If we don't own the brand story and set that brand story out, then everyone's going to have a different story around our brand. And there's going to be fragmented stories. So if we all, Maria, what's your favorite brand in the world? Putting you on the spot here. What's your favorite brand?
I'm going to say a fashion brand. It's okay?
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to say Mango.
Oh, I love Mango for all the reasons you probably do. I have a couple of Mango jackets. Anywho, so do you know the story behind the Mango brand?
Actually, no.
So the story behind the mango brand, or the one word or the feeling, is accessible. So they wanted to make sure that there was beautiful looking clothes that was at the right price and accessible across the globe. So no matter where you went across the globe, much like a Zara, much like a H&M, you knew that this brand was reliable, consistent, and accessible, and also made you look and feel quite bright and confident as well. So the story was consistency and accessibility.
Great. I didn't know that. So people should keep in mind that they should be consistent. They should
Yes.
They should tell a story, the story of their brand, because if not, there will be one brand and a lot of stories.
Correct. Everyone will have their own story of your brand. But if you can share the story from your heart of your brand, then that story gets told on and told on, just like kids' stories at bedtime. And then the third thing, of course, to bring the brand to life through consistency and through that narrative, is making sure that you always are growing the brand with your customers. So ask them what they want. Have an ongoing conversation. Have your feedback loops. Do surveys. Because what people who are putting brands together in brand strategies, or who own brands, is the fundamental thing is what we want in our brands is not necessarily what our customers want. So we can never know. So we have to ask. So that they're the three things. If we've got that consistency, if we've got that same story and that story going out, but then if we're keeping constant feedback, communication, so that our customers and our clients and our raving fans own the own the brand strategy with us. We build it based on what they need, want, love, and they're craving.
Okay, so customer interviews would be a great start here. You should ask your clients what they want, maybe if they want to change something in the product, or if they need something else.
Yeah, and share their stories as well. Share their stories of how the brand has helped them in their life or solved their problem. Everybody who is a fan of a brand would love to be an advocate or a brand ambassador. And you can have an army of people selling your brand just by sharing their stories, because people trust people more than they trust brands. And so if someone is seeing your brand come to life, the way that you're solving a problem, they'll want that as well. So rather than me standing here asking you to buy my product or service, if someone else is showing you their story about how the product or service solved the problem they had, brand gold. So sharing the stories of our customers, but also sharing their thoughts and feelings. It's why ratings and reviews in the last 5 to 10 years have been a real testimonial to how brands how we feel about brands and what brands we really want to be associated with. So people don't want to buy from brands that is just a bricks and mortar or just a name. They want to see the humans behind it. So tell the stories of your team members behind the scenes. When you get excited, how do you celebrate? What's your culture like? So really the culture of the brand should be living externally for all of your customers and clients to see as well.
Great. This is really interesting. I remember that we also talked about this on the podcast episode. And after that, I told the entire Socialinsider team what we talked. It was really great. Now, I'm sure so these are the fundamental components, but I'm sure you have seen a lot of mistakes brands make when they plan their brand strategy. Tell me some mistakes we should definitely avoid.
Yeah, great question. The mistakes we should avoid is, the first one is, don't give the brand strategy, the job of the brand strategy, 100% away to someone else or an agency to create. Create it with them. just so because you've got the feel of the brand. It's very hard for somebody to take that love, to take that understanding, to take the reason, your why, and try and articulate that. So the first mistake to avoid is don't outsource your brand strategy. Make sure that you're doing most of the work and having someone facilitate it or an agency facilitate it. So that's the first thing. The second one, be really clear on your why. If you're not clear on why you exist, your customers, clients, and raving fans won't be either. They won't be able to put their finger on it, but there will be something that's inconsistent. Yeah. So just really know your why and really question, why are we here? It's not just for money. What's the bigger why? And also another thing that you can avoid in that storytelling is, what kind of story are you telling? Was the brand created because you saw a gap in the market? Mm-hmm. Is the brand something that you would have liked to have had but couldn't find, so it was created? Or that's why you work there? Or is the brand coming because you got to a point in your life that you needed to make a change, or you had an epiphany, or you've been in an industry long enough as well, or this brand has been in the industry, you've got all the insider secrets. So it's really interesting. Try not to tell the same story as everybody else in your category or industry is telling. Mm-hmm. Come from a unique angle. And so that you're telling a very different story, and telling a story that is unique and that's about the customer. And the final thing is, the mistake to avoid is, don't jump in at creating a logo and a brand and how we're going to get it out there and what should we say and how many TV ads should we do. Make sure you've got that brand strategy, the brand story first. And also share it with all of your current customers. If you're rebranding or doing something in your brand, share it with the people who love you most and get them to be the first ones to share it. They'll be your brand ambassadors. So mistake number 4 to avoid is, don't do it all behind the curtains and then put it out there for your customers and clients to find out through someone else or through the television or radio. Let them know, let them in on it. Ask them how they feel about it. What would they like to see change? Then put it out. They'll share it.
Great. And my last question for you, and then we will see if we have questions from the audience. But due to the time zone, I'm not sure. I don't know.
And that's absolutely okay, because everyone gets to watch this over and over again.
Exactly. So my last question is, let's say we have a brand and we want people to recognize us. I don't know, when they see a photo on social media, or when they see a product like Mango. If someone sees, I don't know, a dress, they should know it's from Mango. How do you ensure that customers can recognize you?
Great question. A few ways. Again, consistency. So as you said, we all know labels and consistency. So if it's a type of clothing, etc., that will have its own signature. But in your branding, so when you bring your brand to life, think about the colors. Think about if you were a hospital, or if you were a medical center, or if you were a doctor's surgery. You wouldn't actually have the colors of red and orange and bright yellow. You'd have the calming colors. So think about what feeling, emotion you want your clients and customers to have when they find you, interact with you, everything. And so with some organizations, they love to be very clean and clear and just very simple and minimalist. And if you think about toothpaste, dentists, toothbrushes, it's always that mint green and white.
I understand.
Always. Yeah. So think about how you want to convey that feeling, that emotion, through the colors, through how many words you've got on your website. If you want to be all bubbly and creative, or if you're a storyteller or a copywriting place, you want more copy there. And so also think about the social media site that will generate the feeling that you want as well. So your audience will either be on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, but also think about, is it visual? Is your brand visual? Is your brand telling a story through words and through video? How is your brand actually conveying? And so once you've got that consistency through the tones, the colors, your branding, then you've got a consistency through the mediums and the modes that you share. Then you start having that same look and feel. Then you start giving information content to your customers, to your team members, to start having them share it out. So having that look and feel, that consistency again, that one brand story is absolutely perfect. And also a symbol. So whatever we use for our iconography, whatever we use for our if you can put your brand into a symbol that's recognizable,
that's perfect. All you need.
And the other thing I'm working a lot on actually is audio brands. So now that we do have Clubhouse, we've got podcasts, etc. Brands are very clear, and it's being led by the big brands, but they're very clear on having an audio brand. So sometimes you hear some of the bigger brands have a ding, ding, ding. They actually have 3 notes, and that's their audio brand. And it will be every one of their top and tail of their ads, etc. So it's really interesting when we talk about the tone and style of our brand. We can also consider, if someone was hearing our brand, what would it sound like? And so that's been a really interesting, probably the last 5 years, jobs and projects that I've been doing more of across the globe as well.
Oh, great. I never thought actually about this.
Yeah, so Volkswagen has one, and IBM has one, the computer chip. So we don't know it. It's actually subliminal sometimes, but we go, oh, I know that sound. That's Volkswagen. I know that sound. And that will be at the beginning of ads as well, or in between. So it's interesting. We're doing more of those. What does the brand sound like?
Great. Well, Nicole, thank you so much again for your time. It was
I love it.
a pleasure talking to you. It was really, really great. For those who weren't able to join us live, they can see the recording. Also, if they want to chat with you, they can connect with you on LinkedIn or where people can find you.
They sure can. Yes, LinkedIn, Nicole Hatherly. And there you go. We've got one there. But also, they can send in questions for you, and we can always get back on and have a live, because we're across the globe, so many time frames.
Yeah, exactly.
So we can always do that.
We have a question. What's your advice for a startup? How to create a brand when you're a startup?
Hi, Adina. How are you? Great question. So I'm thinking that you're the startup, Adina. How we start with a startup is, let's not go backwards. So it's a beautiful question. Startups, I would always say, go into the design thinking methodology. So design thinking methodology is perfect for startups. If you don't know design thinking methodology, you can literally Google it and have a look at the steps. It's very similar to what I was putting there in there, Adina, is we go back and have a look, strip everything away, and design thinking methodology puts the customer at the center. So we really have to be very clear on the problem statement. Now, a problem statement for a startup does not have us in the solution. So we have to take ourselves out of the equation as any solution. So if we were, say, a service that picked up people from the airport. So we're a service that comes in, picks you up from the airport, helps you with your bag, all of your family, and drives you. We would say that the problem statement, if we've got, our target market is families who are traveling. And if you've ever traveled with families or seen them in the airport, we all have, There's kids running everywhere and there's bags everywhere and it's a scary place. You've got to keep an eye on everyone. And so the problem that startup might be solving is that airports for families are chaotic and unsafe places to try and navigate. That's the problem statement. The biggest mistake that startups make is they try and put themselves in the problem statement. So we are here to make sure that we get you from the airport to your home safely. That's actually the solution. So the idea is to go right back into the problem you're solving. And then you can, and then as a startup, you want to then be able to pretty much put that out there in the same form. So something like, you know, when you're a family at the airport, how chaotic and unsafe it can be. Well, that's why we're here, the airport service centre, to do. And so you've got to get into their pain point first. And so that's the first thing for a brand strategy for a startup. The second thing is to know your story. It's usually with the founder. So this goes into the story selling archetype. Now, Adina and anyone else there, if you would like the story selling archetype, some more information, just connect with me on LinkedIn and send me a message. You've got 6 types of archetypes. So a startup will have one of them. They're either a master in something, they're solving their own problems, they've been in their customer's shoes, they've found a discovery, they've hit the brink and come back and want to help other people. There's another one I can't remember, right on there, my story selling. But there'll be one that the startup is based on. So harness that story selling. And that story has to answer 3 things for the startup. Why us? Why this? And why now?
Great.
I hope that helps to build your brand strategy for a startup.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nicole, again. Before I end, let me take a selfie because I want to publish it on social media and let people know that they can watch us.
I will do the same. I'll just take it because I'm on my Mac here. You ready? 1, 2, 3. So wonderful always to chat with you, Maria. You're one of my favorite people across the globe to talk all things brand strategy. You totally get it.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Well, have a nice evening because
we will talk again, I'm sure.
For sure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me. And thanks, Adina, for your question there. See you all on LinkedIn.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.